Delulu is the Solulu. I'm sure we as Gen Zs have come across this modish maxim in our lives. For those of you who do not know, the phrase is a shortened way of saying that being delusional is the solution to everything. It may seem like a mere funny phrase, but really, how does it affect our inner fears and anxieties? And what does this paradox really mean? Good morning, everyone. I'm Maria, and today I bring to you my perspective. Sorry, your reality check bounced. Scene 1. Oh, how a terrible driver you are! Exclaims a familiar voice, mostly my mum. And what does your inner voice reply? I ain't a terrible driver. I was just testing the durability of roads. Scene 2. Setting, my living room. Characters, my sister and I. Situation, a nail-biting turn of events in an exciting football match. My fingers desperately crossed and my sister holding on tightly to a lucky charm. Before you, my dear audience, was a glimpse of what delusion looks like, as I mentioned earlier. These delusional beliefs are what keep us out of the abyss of appalling thoughts. But they can be at larger levels, like mortality or a traumatic experience. While one may argue that the instances quoted above could be just an optimistic realism, well, my dear friend, looks like you have been hanging out too much with Alice in her Wonderland these days. For there's certainly a difference between realism and magic realism, which means refusing to accept reality in order to regulate our fears. As I mentioned, right from the time we learn to walk and talk to the time we upgrade to learning more diversified and complex skills, fear stays as a permanent resident in our hearts. Some may fear the unknown dark, whereas some others may fear not healing from a traumatic experience, and some others may dread the thought of mortality. Well, to push ourselves out of these holes, we tend to end up possessing delusional beliefs, such as thinking we're good drivers, even though we clearly aren't, or given to sardonic humor. Let me give you an example by creating a hypothetical situation. For instance, my family has gone out and is running late while returning home. I might instantly think that they must have been harmed in some way because my mind thinks of the worst case scenario all the time to regulate my fears and anxieties. Here, the coping mechanism is to be prepared for bad situations. Meanwhile, others can be religious or nationalist beliefs or one's personal achievements. Talking about beliefs, don't we all have certain generational or religious beliefs we may or may not want to agree with? For example, certain people may believe in life after death, meanwhile some others in reincarnation, and some others in heaven and hell. Sounds normal to you, right? However, the thought that one will be reunited with their loved ones after death or reincarnation makes them content and provides solace at the thought of mortality, thereby making it a coping mechanism to stress and dismal thoughts. Let me tell you an anecdote from my childhood. As kids, my sister and I had predefined hobbies. Yes, predefined. We decided that she was an excellent dancer and I was an excellent singer. And indeed, she was a skillful classical dancer. As for me, I was a terrible singer. I still am. However, I tried so hard as a child to sing well. I asked for a microphone as a birthday gift and I did karaoke all day, which everyone at least pretended to enjoy. I relentlessly wanted to pursue being a good singer, but I simply couldn't. So gradually and thankfully, I stopped. And the others felt, thank God she grew up. Not as terrible as my story, but I'm sure all of us have tales of them trying to pursue their hobbies or areas of interests. What if I told you it has a link to your coping mechanisms? Just like me, some might relentlessly aim to pursue music, except you can actually sing and I clearly can't. or dedicatedly work on their edge of the seat novel, hoping that it will be a New York Times bestseller. We say that these hobbies are therapeutic to us. However, there is much more to them than simply being that. The thought that they will be the next Sabrina Carpenter of the coming centuries, or their masterpieces will be reserved in museums forever, makes them content. In simpler words, what I'm trying to tell you is, certain people may engage in hobbies in order to regulate their anxieties and fears. And these hobbies are what make them happy and satisfied. So the idea here is, are our fears to be regarded as our friends or foes? Do they deserve to be shooed off? Suppressed off the face, as the popular punchline goes, डर के आगे जीत है. Well, I have a question for you. What if our darkest nights turn into the brightest of lights? What if our deepest scars turn us into scintillating stars? What if the black canvas of our lives can be painted a vibrant amalgamation of the brightest of colors? The quirky humor, the witty responses, friends separated by a television screen, friends that made us laugh for 10 whole years. If you still have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm referring to the popular sitcom, Friends. Monica's excited, I know! Phoebe's utterly disappointed, oh no. Rachel's strong, no. Joey's charming, how you doing? Ross is annoyed, we were on a break! And Chandler's sarcasm have gone down in the history of television. Well, what if I told you Chandler Bing, the man whose humor tickled his pink, had a much darker and tragic life? Even though Matthew Perry's life has been a series of pitfalls in plight, he never failed to put a smile on our faces. Even though he was suffering, his humor and sarcasm have fetched ecstasy in our hearts for years and years. Matthew Perry has been all of our favorite comedian, stirring delight in our hearts. However, his personal life has been much the opposite of that. I'm hopeless and awkward and desperate for love. Is it playing in your head in Chandler's voice too? For his audience, this line was just for laughs. However, they had slowly turned into a glimpse of his life. And yet, Matthew Perry, not giving his audience the slightest bit of idea, made us laugh till our stomachs began to hurt. Thus, Matthew Perry had coped with his fears healthily, thereby bringing joy in our lives. So the insight here is, all of us have problems to deal with, but what matters is how we cope with these problems. Using the coping mechanisms I mentioned is not harmful. Using them unhealthily is harmful. Thus, using Matthew Perry's life as a testament to our existence, I ask you this: could you be any more imperfect? My point is, ladies and gentlemen, life is a tapestry of vibrant threads woven together, encompassing our perfections and imperfections. Thus, by embracing these flaws, we open gateways to living life to the fullest. Thank you.